Once upon a time, there was a little old man and a little old woman, and they lived in a village in the far countryside, where the streets bustled with people going up and down buying different things. And their home was on top of a shop. Their shop was a little shoe shop, for they were shoemakers. They made shoes with love and care. In those days, they didn't have shoes in factories. People made shoes by hand. And their little home the shop had a little bell at the front, and at the back of the store was a little set of stairs that went up to their house where they had their bed and their kitchen. They made all their meals. Now the little old man and the little old woman worked together very, very hard. They were very hard-working people, but they'd fallen on hard times. Things were not looking good for them, and they only had enough leather to make one pair of shoes. So, as they did every afternoon, they got their scissors out. Get your scissors out with me. And they cut out the leather that they needed for the shoes. And they laid it out on the workbench, blew out the candle, walked up the stairs, and went to bed. In the morning, they came down through the stairs, through the curtain, to find a beautifully hand-stitched pair of shoes. The stitching was so fine, they'd never seen anything quite like it. They were the most beautiful shoes they'd ever seen, and they didn't have much time to wonder about it when the little door of the shop rang. And in came a very posh man who said, "I like those shoes. I want those shoes. I'll buy them, and I'll give you twice as much as what would normally pay for them." So of course, the little old man and the little old woman gave the shoes to the gentleman, and they took the money, and with that money they were able to go and buy enough leather for 2 pairs of shoes. So again, they got out the scissors, they cut out the leather for 2 pairs of shoes, laid it out on the workbench, ready for the next day. They blew out the candle, went through the curtain, up the stairs, and lay in bed. The next day, they came down the stairs and found 2 pairs of beautifully formed shoes. They were the most finely decorated shoes you've ever seen in your entire life. They didn't have long to celebrate, for the little doorbell rang, and in walked a very rich woman who said, "I like those shoes. I'll take them both, and I'll pay you twice as much as what you normally pay for them." So the little old man and the little old woman gratefully accepted the money, and then they had enough for 4 pairs of shoes. And then 8. And it went on and on and on for days and days. And they found that they weren't in trouble anymore, and that they had food to fill their bellies, and everything was looking up for them. One day, the little old woman said to her husband, "Husband, why don't we find out what's happened? Who helped us? Who's helping us all this time?" And so that night they lay out the leather on the workbench. They went through the curtain, and they didn't blow out the candle, and they hid there waiting and watching. At exactly midnight, why is it always midnight? At exactly midnight, the little bell rang, and in came 2 little men who were no bigger than your elbow, from your elbow to your hand. Tiny little men who had raggedy, dirty clothes. They were ripped and torn and shredded, but they had the biggest smiles on their faces. They were happy and singing songs. And they got up on the workbench and started hammering and sewing and making the most beautiful shoes you've ever seen. At the end of the night, they left, and the little old man and the little old woman looked at each other and thought, "We should probably do something for them to thank them for all the work they've done for us. Why don't we make them some clothes?" So that's what they did. The little old man made shoes and a hat and a vest. The woman made pants, socks, and a shirt. And that night, instead of leather for shoes, they lay out these beautiful clothes on the workbench. They went through the curtain, they didn't blow out the candle, and they waited and waited. And at exactly midnight, the bell rang. In came the 2 little men that were no bigger than your arm, from your elbow to your hand. and they saw the clothes on top of the table, and they jumped and squealed with joy, and they ripped off all their old clothes and they put on their brand new clothes, and they were so happy that they walked out the door. The doorbell rang, and that was the last time that the little old woman and the little old man had ever seen the elves. And those elves, I hear, are doing magic all over the world. And as far as the little old man and the little old woman, the shoemakers, are concerned, they are still making beautiful shoes with lots and lots of love.